grace alone, through faith alone, in Christ alone, our hope now forever, and this we know.
I saw that Leighton made a video about John 6:44, and the title is John 6:44 in its true context with capital letters. So we're going to see what John 6:44 really is about from Leighton's perspective. And my curiosity is, how long can he get into the video before he makes a whole bunch of mistakes and errors and hermeneutical gymnastics? Let's just see how long that goes. But since the title is John 6:44 in its true context, let's provide its true context. Let's see. Okay, so Jesus had fed the thousands of people by multiplying the bread, and then Jesus left. And so these people are coming and they're following Jesus, but they're not following Jesus because of who he is or what Jesus is teaching. They're following Jesus because they want some more bread. And so Jesus now is addressing these people, and they are bringing their complaints and arguments against him. So that's the context we're in. They're asking for bread. Our fathers ate manna in the wilderness. As it is written, he gave them bread out of heaven to eat. And Jesus tells them, it's not Moses who gave you that bread. It is my Father in heaven. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. The one who comes to me will not be hungry, and the one who believes in me will never be thirsty. So now Jesus defines his terms, right? The one coming is the one who will be fed, who shall not be hungry. And the one who believes in Jesus will never be thirsty. So coming and believing are equated with eating and drinking. And now Jesus, in verse 36, explains their unbelief. Jesus explains their unbelief, and he says, I said to you that you have indeed seen me. They saw Jesus do the miracles. They saw this. There's no denying that. Jesus says to them, indeed, you've seen me, and yet you do not believe. Why? Why don't they believe? Jesus answers, everything that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me I certainly will not cast out. For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. So here Jesus is explaining the unbelief. He's saying, look, nobody can come to me unless the Father draws him. And the one who comes to me, I will never cast out. And so there's this same group of people, right? The one who the Father draws and the one who the Son keeps. Okay, same group of people. It's not two different groups. Everything that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me, I certainly will not cast out. And this is important because Jesus said, I've come down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. So Jesus is saying, look, I'm not coming to do this, my own will. This is the will of the Father. This is the Father's will for the Son. And what's his will? Jesus says in verse 39, and this is the will of him who sent me, that of everything that he has given me, I will lose nothing, but will raise it up on the last day. Okay, so now we have these connections, right? The Father is the one who draws, and the one who he draws comes to the Son, and the Son keeps, and he doesn't ever cast out, but he raises him up on the last day. Same group of people. The Father draws, they come to the Son, and then they're raised up on the last day. There's no breaking here. And then we'll skip down to verse 43 and 44, which is what he's going to address. Again, Jesus explains their unbelief. They're like, how can he say that he came down from heaven? And Jesus answered to them, stop complaining among yourselves. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day. Same group of people. So that's John 6:44 right there. And let's see then now what Leighton has to say about John 6:44 and whether or not he's actually going to put it in its context.
Jesus said, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day." Calvinistic pastor John Piper teaches this verse means everyone whom he draws does come, because God's drawing infallibly produces the coming. This would mean that the Father only draws some, since all don't come, and that the decisive cause of the coming is God, not man. So the Calvinist is interpreting the word draw as to compel.
Okay, this is it. This is where the misrepresentation starts. How long are we? It's 34 seconds in, and he's already going to misrepresent Calvinism. Because what he's saying is draw, when Calvinists say draw, really what we mean is God forces you. He compels you. He makes you. That's not what Piper said. That's not what any Calvinists say. This is Leighton's own imagination. But he has to do this. He has to do this because he can't explain John 6:44. He can't explain John 6. And I'm curious how much, besides changing the word draw to compel, I want to see what else he does to come to this. I don't even know what conclusion he's trying to come to. I think he's going to try to explain that John 6:44 actually means that it's not the one who the Father draws. The Father draws everybody. But then Jesus says he's going to raise that person up on the last day to the resurrection of life. So everybody's getting resurrected to life. Everybody's going to heaven, right? Let's see what he does.
Or to irresistibly change one's heart through an effectual work of grace so that they will certainly come to Christ. Therefore, the Calvinistic interpretation of verse 44 would read, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me compels him, and I will raise he who is compelled on the last day." But Jesus says, several chapters later, "And I, if I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all men to myself."
A few chapters later, more like 6 chapters later. Is this the context of John 6:44? Do you notice how he's not mentioned anything else except that he's changed the words in verse 44 from drawing to compelling? Apparent from the Calvinist perspective, that's how we see it. God puts a gun to their head and he's like, "Come to Christ, or else," you know. So he's not mentioned verse 45, not verse 33. Instead, what he does is he goes 6 chapters later to a completely different context and takes the word, or what is he? "And if I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all men to myself." Okay, so he takes the drawing in John 12, 6 chapters later, completely different context, completely different group of people, and he is going to, I'm sure, read that back into John chapter 6, verse 44, and come out with an absolutely ridiculous meaning that John 6 does not reflect or mean. Let's see.
If all are drawn, and draw means to compel, then that would make this verse to mean that everyone will come, which is clearly not the intention of Jesus. A more consistent way to interpret the word draw is to enable or to grant, which would help us to understand John 6:44 to mean, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me enables him, and I will raise up he who comes on the last day."
Did you guys catch what he just did there? Now, I think this is a good video to teach you on how to really catch people when they try to do some slight little tricks, like going to John chapter 12, taking that and then reading that back in, changing the words of John 6:44. And by the end of the argument, you're not even in John 6:44 anymore. You're in La La Land. So he says the correct way to interpret draw, I don't know why he's trying to change the word draw, but the Father who sent me Instead of drawing him, the Father enables him. Okay? All right. Okay, Leighton, let's give you that. Okay? Then he goes on, and I will raise up he who comes on the last day. Do you see what he just did? He switched the categories. The word enables him. This is the same group of people that is going to be raised up on the last day. But Leighton changed that. He changed that. Let's look back at let's see. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up on the last day. But he changed that. He changed it to he who comes instead of him. So now that he's created two different groups of people. There's the ones that God enables, the Father enables, which is everybody, according to Leighton. And then there is the one who comes. So everybody's enabled, but not everybody comes. Jesus already repeated this many times in verses 38, 35, 37. Everything that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me, I certainly will not cast out. This is the will of who sent me, that of everything he has given me, I will lose nothing, but raise it up on the last day. And he says, Leighton, no one can come to me unless the Father enables him. That's one group. And I will raise he who comes on the last day. Where did he get these words? In his head, in La La Land, wherever he is. Every time he tries to get to Calvinism, he just goes to La La Land. And he picks something here and he picks something there. The title of this video is John 6:44 in its true context. But all he's done is replace the words in John 6:44, go to John chapter 12, redefine what all means there and what drawing means there. We get back into John 6:44, which he's already tweaked and reversed. Well, not reversed, but he's already tweaked and replaced verses with two different categories of people. And then, gosh, that's the interpretation of John 6:44. Who knew? Jesus expected us to just go, 6 chapters later. Let me demonstrate how stupid this is. Hey guys, if you have gotten any help from this video or were blessed by it in any way, consider subscribing and becoming a part of this channel's growth forward. Leighton thinks that John 3:16 says, means rather, that Jesus died for the whole world, not any particular group of people, but he died just in general. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that everyone who believes on him will not perish but have everlasting life, right? He thinks the word world means every single person everywhere. John chapter 17, let's go there. Here in John chapter 17, verse 9, Jesus said, I am praying for them. I am not praying for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours. All mine are yours, and yours are mine, and I'm glorified in them. Wait, Leighton. Jesus doesn't pray for the world. You're saying Jesus doesn't pray for the world, but he loves the whole world, but he doesn't pray for them? Jesus specifically said, I'm not praying for the world. So Jesus isn't praying for anyone, really, because if John 3:16 means the world is everybody, then Jesus is not praying for them. So do you see how you can take a word, world in John 3:16, put it in John 17, and it doesn't make any sense because the word world is being used in two different ways?
This is consistent with Jesus' own commentary in verse 65 of chapter 6. This is why I told you, no one can come to me unless the Father has enabled them. This is kind of like saying, no one can come to the party unless they've been invited.
Here comes his horrible analogies that don't represent the concept at all.
And those who come will have a great time. An invitation is required to attend, but not everyone who is invited will necessarily choose to come and have a great time at the party.
Do you guys see how this is a direct contradiction of John chapter 6? The one whom the Father draws will come to me. And now he's making an analogy saying, well, you know, you can get an invitation, but that doesn't mean you're going to come. That's why he has to make an analogy. He has to go over here. He has to go over there. He has to go 6 chapters later. He has to come and do this, all to bring it around and say, that's not really what it means. Jesus didn't mean what he said he meant. He actually means this. There's no way I'm ever going to make it through this video. We're 2 minutes into the video. These aren't mistakes. These are direct, deceitful changes. I don't want to make this video more than 20 minutes, so I'm just going to cut it here. But I don't think really we have to go any farther. I don't think anybody needs to go farther than 2 minutes. I would say not even like a minute and 30 seconds into the video before realizing he has no clue what he's talking about. And when he does make direct claims, it's a direct contradiction of what the text says. So he has to change the text, make the text, add this word enables, add the word he who comes, create 2 distinct groups instead of the same group that the Father and the Son, that the Father draws and the Son raises. This is why he can't read John 6, 42, 41, 40, 39, 38. We're 2 minutes in, and he has not read the context of John chapter 6. I started out, it took me like 2 minutes just to go through and just walk through John chapter 6, which isn't really a difficult thing. All I had to do really was read what Jesus said, read the verses. So let's just end it here. Let's just stop, because I'm gonna lose my mind, and I don't think anybody wants to see that. I would be interested in actually doing an interaction with Leighton on John 6:44. I would be interested in doing an interaction, whether we do a live video or whatever it may be. I would be interested in doing that, because I will point him to the verses as direct questions that he will not be able to answer. He'll have to do his gymnastics. And I think when he does that, it'll be plain even to the people that will believe every word that comes out of his mouth. There's just no way to come to a conclusion that he is doing any type of consistent exegesis. He's not using a consistent hermeneutic. He would never use this hermeneutic to prove penal substitutionary atonement or the Trinity. He could not use this same hermeneutic to do that, because it's a made-up hermeneutic specifically to get around one verse. Anyways, I'll end it there. Hope you guys have a great day or a great night wherever you guys are, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.